In the heart of Ikom, Cross River State, Nigeria, nestled between quiet hills and plains and the songs of weaver birds, lived a man whose smile could light up a room, Mr. Edet, fondly called Mr. E. He was a beloved husband and father to 3 lovely boys. He was the kind of man who fixed broken gates in the village before you even asked, who danced like a boy at family weddings, and who looked at his wife Ekamma like she was the only woman in the world. Ekamma was grace in motion. Her silence spoke volumes, and her love for her husband was visible in ways she served his food and wiped his forehead when he was tired. To Mr. E's mother and siblings, she was a golden daughter-in-law. They praised her at every family gathering. "You are more than we ever prayed for," his mother often said. Then, one chilly evening, everything changed. Mr. Edet came back from work with a strange cough. Nothing serious at first, but over the days, his energy drained, his skin paled, and the sparkle in his eyes dimmed. Doctors called it rare terminal disease, aggressive, swift, and merciless. Ekamma did not leave his side for a second. She prayed, she fasted, she wept quietly at night, and spoke life into his ears during the day. Just as hope seemed lost, a medical breakthrough in Lagos, a revolutionary treatment, expensive, experimental but promising. With the help of kind, please subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, like, and comment. Thank you. Friends, community fundraising, and Mr. Edet's remaining savings, they flew him to Lagos for the procedure. Miraculously, it worked. Mr. Edet came home to joyful cheers, songs from neighbors, celebrations from his mother, and long prayers of thanksgiving. Ekamma danced with him under the stars that night, believing they had won. The boys drew welcome signs and stuck them on the walls. Laughter returned to their home. But joy can be fragile. Exactly 5 days after returning, Mr. Edet lay beside his wife, breathing steadily, and never woke up again. Ekamma found him cold in the morning, his hand still wrapped around hers. Her scream that morning shattered more than glass. Losing a loved one is cruel, but betrayal after losing a loved one is a deeper cut, directly to the heart. Her heart felt numb. She sat in a white cloth with her head bowed, her sons too young to understand the full weight of what had just happened. She hoped at least she would be allowed to grieve in peace. But peace is never given to widows by their in-laws. On the 3rd day, the elders came. The said rituals had to be performed to cleanse her from Mr. Edet's passing. Ekamma agreed. She respected culture, but the cleansing turned into humiliation. They shaved her head without warning, forced her to sleep on a mat outside in the cold, and accused her of spiritual impurity. And the worst came from where she least expected. Her mother-in-law, who once called her a daughter, now spat venom with every word. "You brought this into my son's home. You are cursed," she shouted. "You bewitched him with your crocodile tears and sent him to his God." Ekamma's heart broke afresh. Rumors spread like wildfire that she had secretly poisoned Mr. Edet, that she had rushed his return from Lagos for money, that she was already planning to remarry. Lies soaked in malice. Within a week, Ekamma was called to a family meeting, sitting among stone-faced relatives. She heard the verdict. "You and your children must leave this house. The house is our son's. It belongs to us now." She was speechless. "They are his children too," she began. "You can take your sons to your father's house," someone snapped. That night, with no chance to gather her thoughts, she gathered her sons, a few clothes, and walked away barefoot from the home she had built with love. Behind her, the family rejoiced. They raided Mr. Edet's safe, took over his businesses, sold his cars, and emptied his bank accounts. Everything he had worked for now belonged to the vultures. The village of Obubra welcomed Ekamma the way only the humble can, without fanfare, without questions, just quiet acceptance. Her parents, old and retired farmers, had not seen their daughter in such pain since she was a child. She looked like a ghost wrapped in linen, with 3 confused boys clinging to her skirt. No words could fix what had been broken. Her father, Baba Okon, said nothing that first night. He just stood in the yard, watching her unpack her sorrow into a small room they offered her and the children. Later that evening, as he stirred the fire to boil yam, he placed a strong hand on her shoulder and said, "There is pain in your soul now, but we'll plant through it." And so they did. With no money, no job, and no justice, Ekamma returned to the only thing she had left, her hands and the land. She began farming the little plot behind her father's hut. Every morning, before the sun rose, she was out with her hoe, back bent, tears silently watering the soil as she planted maize, spinach, and beans. Her sons, still young, helped in their own clumsy way. They fetched water, chased chickens, and asked questions she could barely answer. Why did Grandma drive us away? Is Daddy coming back from heaven? Will we go to town again? Ekamma never lied. She held them, kissed their foreheads, and said, "We are planting a better tomorrow, one seed at a time." But the pain did not stop. At night, she cried silently into her pillow. Some nights, she ran out of tears and simply stared at the ceiling, listening to the crickets and the mocking voice of her late husband's mother echoing in her head. The community saw her struggle. Some pitied her, others whispered, "That's the one whose husband's family took everything." But there was one thing they couldn't ignore. Ekamma never begged, never gossiped, never cursed. She just worked. Months passed. The farm grew. Little by little, she began selling her vegetables in the market. Not much, but enough to feed her children without depending on anyone. Her boys were growing taller. She braided their hair herself, mended their torn shirts with needle and thread, and taught them to pray every night. Even in brokenness, Ekamma played a mother like a queen. Still, every time she walked past a wedding, saw a happy couple, or heard the sound of children playing in a bigger home, her heart sank. "I'm still young, Lord," she whispered a prayer to God. "But who would want a widow with scars and 3 boys?" The heaven was silent, but God listened. It was a quiet Thursday morning when the rumor first reached the village of Obubra. "A rich man is coming," the market women whispered, eyes wide with curiosity. "They say he's a billionaire widower from Lagos looking for a wife, a village wife." The chatter grew louder. Every home buzzed with speculation. Girls began fixing their hair, polishing their shoes, and asking their grandmothers to prepare love potions. But Ekamma did not pay attention. She was too busy tending to her spinach farm, her 2 sons chasing chickens behind her, and the youngest asleep under a tree with a crust of dry eba, cassava meal, in his hand. She had no mirrors in her home, no time for rumors, just sweat, soil, and silent prayers. Meanwhile, in a black luxury Mercedes SUV, rolling into the dusty village road was Mr. Basi Eyo, a reclusive billionaire whose face never appeared in tabloids. He had lost his wife 6 years ago in a car accident. Since then, he had raised his daughter alone and grown weary of fake smiles in polished circles. He wanted a woman of heart, not vanity. His late mother, a healer from a nearby village, had once told him, "When the time is right, your soul will recognize your queen, not by her beauty, but by her scars." That day, his soul found Ekamma. It wasn't in a grand hall or with a dramatic entrance. No, it was at the edge of the village field where she bent over harvesting spinach with a baby tied to her back and sweat dripping down her face. Her dress was torn at the hem, her feet bare, but she stood like a tree planted by purpose. He stopped the car and just watched. Later, he asked an elder along the road, "Who is that woman?" The old woman's face softened. "Ah, that is Ekamma. She has suffered more than most, but she never complains. That soil there, it was dry when she came. Now look at it. She brought it back to life." The billionaire smiled. "Then she's the one." He came back the next day, not with roses or gold, but with a respectful knock and loaves of bread. Ekamma opened the door carefully. She blinked in surprise. The man before her was tall, clean, and gentle-eyed. "Good morning," he said. "I don't want to disturb you. I've heard of your strength. I came to meet you, if you'll allow me." She offered him a seat on a wooden stool under the tree. They spoke. She listened more than she talked. He smiled more than he asked. And for the first time in years, she laughed. Over the next few weeks, he kept visiting, sometimes with groceries, sometimes with books for the boys, sometimes with just kind conversations. He never rushed. He never touched her. He simply stayed. Then one evening, under a tree where fireflies danced and her sons were asleep beside the fire, he knelt and said, "I don't want a wife who's never known pain. I want a woman who has walked through fire and still blooms." Ekamma, I see your scars. Please subscribe to this channel, turn on your notification bell, like, and comment. Thank you. And they are beautiful. She wept, not from sadness, but from the strange, overwhelming feeling of being seen. 3 months later, they were married, not in a grand wedding hall, but in the village church, surrounded by people who had seen her cry and rise again. Her sons wore matching shirts and danced with pride. The villagers celebrate louder than they had in years. Her in-laws heard the news from afar, but by then, it no longer mattered. Ekamma left Obubra, not with bitterness in her heart, but with joy. Her destination? Europe. In Europe, she began a new life, not one of forgetting the past, but of honoring how far she had come. She started a foundation for widows, taught her sons to farm and to pray. And every morning, she stood by her window, sipping tea, watching the mist roll over vineyards, and whispered, "God surely remembers those who cry in silence."